Hey, Channel Insiders. Welcome back to Channel Insider Partner POV. I'm your host, Katie Bavoso, and my guests today come from the IT services and consulting company, Kite Technology Group. You'll meet Adam Atwell, Chief Technology Officer, Microsoft MVP and partner, and Jason Gobbel, Chief Solutions Officer and partner as well. This episode is all about the nuances that come with serving independent insurance agencies and how the Kite team prioritizes a go-giver approach to education and information, not only for their clients, but other MSPs as well. Plus, it's not an episode without talking about AI. But how do you guide clients in such a regulated industry through that journey? We dig into it. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for finally getting us on.
Woo. I'm very excited for you to be here, sir. Yes, I know this has been a long time coming, so thanks for your patience, and I hope you're ready. You be careful what you wish for, Adam.
We're ready. We're so excited, seriously.
Well, I am too, and that's where I want to get started, is really getting to know the two of you and getting to know Kite Technology Group. So first of all, I know your background quite a bit now through my own research, through talking with you. You have a special vertical niche where you really focus on independent insurance agencies. You do have other customers in nonprofit, construction, things like that too, but your bread and butter is really right there in insurance, which is a regulated industry. So can you give me an overview of your business and why you focus very much on that specific vertical?
It kind of started with a hold my beer moment. We ran into a couple of insurance agencies. Back in the early 2000s, there was an insurance specific product, and terminal servers were, the new hotness. Everybody wanted to have a terminal server in their business, but this product didn't work. So our founder, Jeff Kite, ironically, who doesn't drink, said, I think I can solve this. So we managed to get the product working, gained a lot of recognition, not only from the vendor, but also from the space. So we kind of accidentally fell into it, where now we had insurance agencies coming out of the woodwork saying, hey, I hear you guys are you're the ones to talk about doing this thing. So that's kind of how we started. And it's always been from a position of people helping people. We love technology. We love people. Just makes sense that we would help people with their technology. And we found a lot of overlap in that business. Insurance is a relationship business. It's built on trust. It's built on value. And, we just kind of fell in love with it. It just made sense to us. So we dove in, and that's where we stayed.
And something I want to make sure that I highlight, because I think it's important for the audience to understand of just how deep this goes for Kite Technology Group. Jason, you're a licensed insurance agent, and I want to be specific in the kind that you are. You're a licensed property and casualty insurance agent. So not only are you serving this sector, but you've lived it. You've been inside of it. Are you one of one at the company, or are there more like you working directly with these customers that are still working in these insurance agencies?
There are quite a few. Some of them come from an insurance agency background, and perhaps they were never licensed to sell insurance. And, they just knew the business operations. But our director of operations, he's a former commercial lines account executive working with janitors and contractors. So top to bottom, inside out, we know the business. We know what it looks like to show up to work at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning on an insurance desk and do the job.
One other specific aspect of our business, Katie, that, we doubled down on our investment. Jason gave the backstory to kind of where we came from. And we have staff that fell into technical roles in our organization to help serve our, primary customer of independent insurance agents. But more than that, about 5 or so years ago, we realized not only do we like people, we like technology, we like this insurance thing, but we also realized that we had some internal value to some specific line of business applications inside of the insurance agency world. And so we started to stand up what we call agency consulting. And so it's a whole nother division in our company that's fundamentally dedicated to helping folks use insurance applications better with a focus in a specific vendor. But we have 8 or 9 folks on our team now, and their primary job is to help our customers, our agencies, do better with their agency management system, workflows and processes and those things, as well as accounting functions and general maintenance of the agency management system. So that's another aspect of our business that kind of an outgrowth that's became and continues to be, a major investment, what we're making in our team and the industry at large.
Let's talk more about that investment and that knowledge that you have that runs so deep. What are some of the biggest technology challenges facing independent insurance agencies today? Obviously, I know that this is probably a business that security and compliance paramount, top of mind at all times. But is that some of the only technology we're focused on here? What else? What other challenges are they facing when it comes to their tech stack that impacts their business?
I'll start out with kind of the first challenge that still continues to be a challenge today. And it's not a specific technology per se, like security or compliance or access to collaboration tools, but it's just the modern work aspect of things. And so when I say modern work, that's an industry term for remote work, right? That is synonymous with Microsoft technology. So the business in general, insurance and other regulated industries really are challenged by meeting those regulations in a hybrid workforce, folks that work from home and work in the office or somewhere in between, right? And so that challenge, I don't want to understate it. I want to highlight the fact that remote work is still very much a challenge that is very real for all businesses and independent insurance alike. And so that's a major aspect. And maybe some see that as a COVID trend that's since settled out, but really it's going through another cycle of folks coming back to the workplace or having a few days at home. And how do you find that balance of maintaining not just security and compliance as paramount to the list, but also collaboration and communication and making sure you're invested in your culture in the way you work together and serve your customers. So that's top of mind for me, the ongoing challenge of remote work.
Well, it does have the challenge of not being a super interesting career choice. Like you don't go to a high school and say, what do you guys plan on doing when you get out of school? Insurance. Like it just doesn't work that way. There are some security challenges. Insurance as a concept is regulated at the state level for the most part. So every state's got its own licensing. Every state's got its own security requirements. You do get some that are, at the federal level, FTC safeguards as an example. But, as an agent sitting at a desk managing licensing, managing all the regulations, what New York demands of me, what Ohio demands of me, what Michigan demands of me, I have to keep all of that top of mind, which is not what I planned on doing when I started the business of selling insurance. This is all necessary work that has to happen while serving the customer. And the insurance agent kind of sits in the middle of the road. You've got the customers on one side, but you've got multiple insurance carriers that actually produce the product. So you have a house, you need a homeowner's policy. It's my job to find you, the best coverage, the best deal, which means I need to coordinate with several different insurance carriers and their products. They don't always have a compelling reason to play nice together. So I'm working in the middle of a bunch of silos and monolithic systems, having to synthesize that down to my desk, evaluate all the options, and then present it to you in a way that makes sense so that we can, align on a product. So it's a fascinating workload with a lot of specific and unique challenges.
I'm curious to know, Jason, obviously, I mentioned it before, security and compliance for these agencies is very important. I've spoken to other partners in the past where security and compliance for maybe their retail chain, maybe a different vertical they're focused on outside of being a regulated industry, it's kind of a like, you gotta tough love those clients. You need them to understand how important it is to have not only the cybersecurity aspect, but hand in hand with the compliance aspect. I don't imagine it's difficult like that with your customers to explain of how paramount it is. But are you noticing a shift in these agencies asking for more or asking you to be proactive with the compliance needs that they're going to not only have maybe this year, but maybe if they're trying to future-proof or build another agency in a different state, what do we need to do to focus on that? How do you help them walk through that journey?
Sometimes kicking and screaming, for being
Really?
honest.
Really?
So when you think of insurance, they're kind of the red-headed stepchild of the financial services environment. So the insurance agent gets lumped in with banks and insurance carriers and sellers of financial products and wealth management. So from a legal perspective, when we talk about what a bank needs to do and what we talk about, an insurance carrier like Chubb or Travelers has to do, we're also thinking in terms of, oh, by the way, insurance agent, you're on board too. So the policies, the requirements, they were written not with the agent in mind. They're just an innocent bystander in this. So there's a lot of disconnect between understanding, what is my job as a small business owner relative to these organizations, and number one, how do we implement it? How do we afford it? These are financial services things that are coming down that they've not experienced before. So when New York produced its first round of regulations, it was, first of its kind, as they called it. And these were industry grade, enterprise grade terms and requirements that were being put on small businesses. You must have a SIM, you must have a SOC, you must have vulnerability management, penetration testing. So the first thing we had to do was, okay, well, let me help you understand what all these things mean, because you suddenly just grew up and now you got to behave like an enterprise. So we've got to adopt some mindset things. We've got to adopt some tools and some processes that we haven't seen before. And it's not always about security. Security and compliance kind of walk the same road, but you can be secure and not compliant, and you can be compliant and not secure. So that was the challenge. Is like, well, we are secure. We've never had a breach. You guys do a great job as our IT provider. We're secure, right? It's like, secure, but maybe not compliant. Compliance is a mindset and a workload and all that stuff. So a lot goes into the conversations more than anything. It's not so much about the tools. We focus heavily on the Microsoft 365 stack, and Microsoft does a very good job of giving us a lot of levers that we can pull. That's why we love the product so much. Being secure is very simple, but adopting the mindset that gets you to a point of compliance is a real challenge.
That one is very human as opposed to tech-centric,
Very
as opposed to product-centric.
Yeah. Humans, workflows, conversations, we know stuff's going to hit the fan. What does that look like? That is now our job, to understand compliance, is understand, what do we do? What are our obligations? Who gets the first phone call? Who gets the second phone call? What do we tell the customers? What are we obligated to tell them? It's a lot of nuance and complexity before we even get to the conversation of technology.
For sure. I was just going to add a few specific things, for us in our journey. It wasn't always as easy as it is today to help, convince our customers of the importance in these things, right? Katie, you alluded to your customers they know this stuff, right? Like, it's good. It's not a hard conversation. Jason said, sometimes we got to drag them along kicking and screaming. The reality, there was a shift definitely when security became more of a focal point for the industry. And then it was like, well, hey, we're just delivering more bad news kind of thing to the customers, right? It's not us, and we realized there was a tone shift there that we were able to adopt based on compliance and regulation coming down. And so that's been in large part really a good rhythm for us as a business. We pay attention to compliance requirements for the industry so our customers don't have to. They value and appreciate that. When it comes time to the cycles of annual review for risk assessments, which every business must do, we help them understand that they're checking the right boxes, where they're not, what investments to make. And that's really been a cornerstone in really our priorities as a business, as we've grown around the Microsoft 365 space and the insurance space, is really growing with both, right? And so largely, to the point of security versus compliance, we knew the needful of security customers would get. We needed to help them understand that. We did all those investments in those conversations. Most of them get it. Now we're running into the second wave of security requirements, which are more dollars and more, why do I need to do this? What's the value? But we like to think of compliance as the second coming of security from a regulation and industry standpoint. I think a few years back, I said what security was 5 years ago will be what compliance is in the next year or two from a regulation focus, right? And we're already starting to see some of that come to fruition with, like Jason said, the last year round of changes from New York and other regulatory bodies that lead the charge. And so it's been fun. It keeps a lot of job security up for us in value we can add to our customers. But I think one thing that stands out for us is because we come at the customers as a trusted advisor and a partner and a real industry expert, when we come to them with these kinds of things, there's an assumption of trust in what we're saying. And so that in the relational investments we've made with all of our customers really helps the conversation happen better. And so that gives us the ability to partner with them and help them see that value rather than it being, sorry, it's just an upsell to something else you don't understand the value in or care to pay for. That's a much nicer conversation to have today than it was 10 years ago, for sure.
And now when we talk about your clients, are we saying countrywide or a specific, are there any states, I think the easier answer would be, are there any states that you can't serve or don't serve? Where are your clients basically around the country?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Okay.
Yeah, they're everywhere. We're U.S. based, and in our client and our staff. So we don't serve outside of the U.S. and we don't have any folks that are employed outside of the U.S. for our company. You know, we've talked about representing our clients on the map, but the reality of the fact that we probably don't have a client in every state, Katie, but I would say that the United States of America in what insurance policies our clients write represent the whole United States to some degree. And maybe the exception would be Puerto Rico and how it's recognized, or maybe Hawaii because it's just offshore. And I'm not sure if we're actually writing policies for Hawaii today by way of our customers. But I think we have a pretty large representation of the United States and the regulatory weight that comes with it for independent agencies and us being mindful to its process.
I want to pivot to what was mentioned earlier about Microsoft 365, that the company is very much invested as a Microsoft partner. And Adam, obviously your title, Microsoft MVP, that holds a lot of weight. How does one achieve a title like that, number one? And number two, what does that say about what does that say about Kite Technology Group? What should it say to your customers?
Yeah, I love that question, Katie. I think there's several different perspectives for that answer. I'll give the one that's closest to, I think, our heart and our intention. We started down the road of aligning with Microsoft early on, before I even came to the business, right? It was the server on-prem that Jason talked about, terminal servers, the small business server, Microsoft tech stack, but the on-prem version, right? And so I came in when about 13 years ago, LinkedIn told me the other day. And, when I came, it was really just starting off what we know as Office 365. So hosted email, hosted Exchange, and then a little bit of OneDrive on the side, if you will. And really everything else was up and coming, SharePoint, et cetera. The things we all use mostly every day, right? That we call table stakes, really. For us, we knew Microsoft was where we were heading, that those were our investments. And so early on, our business has been a part of peer groups, right? So other MSPs for years, our founder and our managing partner felt that was very important to our business. And so we aligned in those peer groups and kind of, brain trust, go-giver mentality of sharing things. And we got to a point where we saw the industry shift from on-prem to SaaS, right? And that jump start to come. And so I was fortunate enough to have some opportunities to invest in the channel, like with some Microsoft events, and kind of see the vision of the road ahead. And so I kind of brought that in and then started to really do work inside other MVPs at the time, as well as other folks that were like-minded with goals of, I want to help serve SMBs that serve Microsoft customers, right? And so that's what we are. That's the heart of our business. Is we're a small business that serves other small and mid-sized businesses. And so organically through those peer group connections and other channel relationships that we were building, I was given an opportunity to be a part of the Microsoft 365 Lighthouse community, which early on was really just kind of an attempt for Microsoft to serve multi-tenant needs for MSPs or other small businesses that serve more than one Microsoft environment, right? And so I put a lot of time into that relationship of the community and investing there. And that was really in service of our business, our customers, and our peers, right? How do we do multi-tenant Microsoft 365 well. And so along the way, there was another opportunity for what we know today as Defender for Business, which is the cornerstone to the device endpoint security product in the Microsoft 365 suite. And they took kind of the enterprise endpoint offering and put it in a small business package and rebuilt it. We got to work under NDA with Microsoft on that for 2 years prior to its official Ignite announcement. And so as that time of both Lighthouse and Defender for Business, I had made like 300 hours of investment because we track our time over here, doing it while accelerating our cloud growth, killing off servers and moving to Microsoft 365. And the product manager that I worked with from the Defender for Business side said, all right, I've checked my boxes. I'm moving on to the next project. And I kind of just said to him, Shlomi, would you be willing to nominate me for a Microsoft MVP? Do you think I fit the bill? Do I check the boxes? And really, we had some other business goals. This was really like a side thing. I really didn't know what it meant, honestly, but I wanted to pursue it out of one, my passion for the industry and really our core values we have as a business, which are really just an extension of my own values, truly, and wanting to contribute, right? And we're pretty loud over here. We can be. I'm probably the loudest, but we're fortunate enough to see things for SMB that are gaps. And that's really what I do in the relationships with our strategic technical partners. And so Shlomi put my app in for me. He nominated me. And then after about 90 days, we found out that I got awarded. And so that for me was an awesome accomplishment from a professional standpoint. It affirmed the work we were doing in the industry of trying to make SMB better, right, from a Microsoft perspective. And then really, I think some of the side benefits were it gave us more access, right, to folks in proximity with the work that was being done. Microsoft sees SMB differently than enterprise, as you might imagine. But we've been really fortunate to be able to align with close ISV or industry partners that are aligning with Microsoft and Microsoft alike. And so that's kind of what it is. I think that the core of what it means to me is it gives me an opportunity to work with the channel and the industry at large and add the value of what I see specifically for SMB and MSPs back to it. And then I think the return value or the value exchange is the insights we get for what's coming and how to build better and next steps for our customers and our people, our actual staff and stuff. So what I missed there, Jason, anything?
I'm not sure there's a whole word that you missed in the English language there. Being honest.
Yeah.
Yes, beautifully said, Adam. And there is one phrase you said that I do want to touch on in there because it is going back to your core values and tenets as a company. You take a different approach to growth and what you call the go-giver mentality. And you said it earlier in your statement there. Talk to me more about what that is and what do you mean that's your approach to growth? How does that differentiate Kite Technology Group to really focus on education and that go-giver mentality?
Yeah, I love that. So I'm not going to do the book justice. I can't even tell you the name of the author right now, but it's one of many books that we've read over the years here in leadership. And our core values are so important to us as a business, right? And that goes top to bottom in our organization. It's rare that you see that. We're people who care deeply about people. And specifically what the go-giver philosophy is for me, it's to give without expectation, to try to make something better, to make an impact just because, for no specific reason other than to gift it, to give it away. And so that's really what we do, right? And I get the privilege to do it on the technical side, which is one of my passions. And I love that opportunity. Jason leads a lot of this charge, and I kind of come along with him from an industry standpoint. And he could speak to kind of that go-giver mentality for insurance, right? Because we do it in both places. And then we do it internally as well for our staff, in every way that we can, to give without expectation. And that has served us really well. Like just try to represent the right things, call them out, call people up, and give it away with the intention of something getting better, not expecting a return.
In a prior call that we had, a prior call to this recording, Adam, you had also mentioned that you try to take that mentality to other MSPs, which was surprising to me. Why do that? Why? Because you could easily see that as, helping your competition, but why take that mentality to them as well? And how does that help you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we're entrepreneurs at heart, and we don't make any excuse about that. We're people who are entrepreneurs at heart, but there's a healthy tension in being an entrepreneur and a people person, at the same time. And so as it applies to our peers, right, other MSPs, we found through the years of peer group effort we put in, the core peers that we've sat alongside, we've learned, and we've been on the receiving end of receiving the value of what others have shared. So we saw that example, right, in those ways as a business. And then several of us have hearts for giving anyway. That's just who we are: community, family, friends, whatever it is. And so it's important to us because we know there's more than enough work out there for everyone, Katie. Honestly, that's one statement. So we're not really worried about, well, what am I giving Katie if I give her my crib sheet? Is she going to come in and build something better? If you do, that's great. I hope it will drive better for all of us, right? That's kind of the mentality we have. The work's never going to stop. It's going to change. It's going to grow. And we know that confidently we're going to stay on top of that change as long as we're invested in the same things. And so anything that we can give away and help grow the community at large in that way, we're going to keep doing for those reasons.
Well, gentlemen, I think we set a record here because we've been talking for about half an hour and nobody has mentioned AI yet, but I'm about to end that streak right now. So AI, artificial intelligence, obviously it is the tool that everyone is after right now, trying to figure out how can we build it into our workflows? How can we make money off of it? I, as a consumer, don't really understand how that can be applied to independent insurance agencies, just from where I sit. So, Jason, how is that something that's being applied, and how are you guiding your clients down the road of making the smart, safe decisions when it comes to artificial intelligence? Because we all know what happens when you just dump everything into an LLM.
Oh, yes. So it's a crowded space. Everybody's got a tool or a thing. So we're leading the same way we've led with everything else, which is education and guidance. That was our first entrance into the field. Is let's not try and sell you a tool. Let's not try and sell you a product or a service. Let's take a hard look at what this thing is doing to our industry, what it's going to do to our processes, and really starting with the process of thinking through it, separating fact from fiction. Our primary goal is to kind of get you unexcited about AI. Step away from the shiny object. Don't go head over heels. Don't go all that. And then once we think we understand it, we know the risks, we know the rewards. Now let's look into the business and find the opportunities. So that's where we're leading with that education and leading with that industry. There are a ton of tools out there. There are a ton of vendors. Knowing the good from the bad, knowing the smoke from the fire. That's our second step in our foray into the industry is just reaching down with the vendors, scheduling meetings, talking, learning their products, and really understanding how they're doing so that we can come back to our agency partners and say, don't waste your time with these guys. These guys worth an introduction. So again, not selling a product. I don't want to make money just for the sake of making money. I want to do this right and do it well. And so this quarter has been an internal shift where we start to explore, okay, AI is a pretty established thing now. We've seen a season of early adopters rise and fall. We've seen a series of vendors rise and fall, and we've seen that first round of, the big fish gobbling up the little fish. So now what's left? What hasn't been commoditized? What hasn't been there? Now what can we spend the time and the effort for making a specific workflow or a specific product that works for an agency? And that's what we're looking at this corner. So I say from the outside looking in, you might kind of see us as a laggard in the space, but we're doing it on purpose because we don't want to just make money. We just don't want to make a product. And if there's a vendor that's going to do it better with a laser focus on solving a very specific problem, I don't want to get in the way of that. I want to bridge that relationship and make sure that that happens for the benefit of my customers. In the same way that, we're not afraid to educate other MSPs on a better way to do things if we think we have some value to give. We built our business just leading with a willingness to educate and help. So we know that model works. Sounds a little weird, feels a little weird in practice, but we know it worked to get us where we are, and we still think that's the play for the future. So when it comes to AI, just about everything I've done so far is really in the education space. Industries, the big I, independent agents and brokers, is a national organization. I'm actually going out to Nashville, attending their conference and helping them think about what AI is doing in the educator space and what do they need to have their eyes on so that they can better serve their members. And that's a lot of what we've been doing, is just helping and talking and educating and helping people get to a point to make informed decisions. Mm-hmm. And at some point, we will be one of those informed decisions when we land on something that's really worthwhile and really meaningful. But along that way, we will have established trust. We will have established, an authority in the space and education in the space. And then we will, I believe we will be the foregone conclusion when we say, okay, guys, we've got the thing we need to do here. Let's go forward.
I'm curious to know if there are any trends that you're implementing right now that maybe are not the shiny object that AI is, but is there anything out there that you've been really saying, this actually might be a good idea to recommend to certain clients? Anything like that? Or are you still trying to keep it pulled back?
There are some. When I think through AI and what it's going to do to the business, the position I don't want us to be in is a point solution. I don't want to sell X and sell Y. We've always taken the big picture strategy view. So where we're thinking about things is not so much AI, but what's AI going to interact with, and do you have that thing? A lot of agencies don't. They're using a line of business app that was built, and it's been refreshed over the years, but it was built for a legacy workflow and a legacy workforce. So what is the AI going to interact with? If you don't have a CRM, if you don't have a ticketing system, if you don't have a process to manage work that outsources or automates, it's about building that system first so the AI has a home when it comes into your business. And that's the part that a lot of folks are missing. They jumped right over that and they automated and they brought a tool in, which is cool. Sometimes it works really well when you're saving some time and things like that. But are you really foundationally changing your business to a point where it can scale? Not yet, because you're still working on the point solutions. And that's our goal. And I think when we step in, just like we've always done, we're going to step in with the business strategy and the goal in mind, and then the path to get us there. All of the products won't be ours. Some of them certainly will be at some point.
Adam, I'd love to hear your take when it comes to the AI conversation. Is there anything you'd like to add?
For sure, yeah. I think it probably took us about a year of figuring out how to approach the position of our AI strategy. Much like Jason said, for the independent agency that we serve primarily, right, there's a lot of things happening, just like there is everywhere with AI. This quarter, we really honed in on kind of a three-pronged strategy that we've started to execute on. One is the customer needs, right? And that's largely what Jason focuses on from an industry perspective. Last quarter, we started using AI and automation for how we do our service on our help desk team and other areas of our business. Some would say it's just automation, but it's automation with the level of AI built in and in the flow of where we work. And so that's a second dimension. It's not really specific to what our customers see, but they certainly see the result in the quality of work we do or the capacity of work we provide and are able to accomplish, right? So that's take two. It really was take one, AI from a service management perspective. Take two has been, the industry focus. And then the third take is really how it all fits together around each other. And so that point of, agent to agent or systems that talk between systems the ground is just starting to settle on some of those things. I think one part of our AI strategy that's undeniable is the Microsoft 365 Copilot piece, right? We know, like Jason said, that it's going to take multiple pieces of AI to wrap in and add value for total business, continuity. But we know what value Copilot has. And really for our customers, because they're Microsoft shop first, while what they do in the Microsoft world doesn't directly extend always to their agency management system, where they serve their customers, we know Copilot has so much data for internal work that we do and what we store there. And so it would be a major miss, if we didn't call out Copilot. And that's another investment we're making here, of course, in the Microsoft world. And so first take on that is really a further level of adoption in our business, right? Because it was built for enterprise first and then packaged down for SMB opportunity. The next step for us is delving into custom agents, right? That we build to help give our people better ways to do things internally. And then at the same time, we're also establishing good security and compliance measures around how to use Copilot in the right way. And we'll be paying that guidance forward to our customers in the months to come. A note on a different direction of AI that we're taking, and I think all MSPs or SMBs alike need to understand there is a multi-pronged approach to AI and not assume that one tool will solve them all.
Very well put right there. There is no silver bullet. And I think that's important to always remember about anything new on the market, even after the few years we've had to kind of experiment with AI. So I'd love to know a success story with a customer that you can tell me, which is one that really shows the value your business provides to them. Is there one that comes to mind?
There are two that come to mind.
Oh, even better.
And I'll take it one from a human level and I'll take one from a business level, because both are truly equally important to how we do things. So I'll start with the success story on the personal level. It happened on our help desk. We had a relatively new client. They work from all over the place, a lot of work from home, a lot of stuff. So they're not really in an office environment. One of their employees called in with a technical problem and was working with one of our technicians. And the call wasn't going well. The caller was having trouble understanding the words, was having trouble following the directions, all this stuff. And Beth, our employee, leaned in, worked it through, and realized this is a medical emergency. This is something that's going on here. So she gets off the phone. She calls the HR. She's calling anybody in the business she can get her hands on who would be in a position and say, hey, I just got off the phone with so-and-so, and this is how it's going. I think we have a problem. And sure enough, it was a medical emergency. They got the ambulance out there, got the woman taken, well cared for. It was a really good success story and a shining example of what we do and what we value. I suspect they're probably going to be customers for life as a result of that. But the whole point is there's life there to be a customer now, because our employee put the people first and took the humans first. And that's all she was worried about, not getting the monitor working. So that was super affirming to hear that our folks they're just out there being good people first and foremost, which is awesome. Beth,
you rock. Shout out to Beth. Oh my goodness.
Shout out to Beth. Yeah, wow. That was fantastic. So a good success story from the business side of the fence. There's a lot of acquisition, private equity firms coming in and buying up a lot of independent insurance agencies. And we see it a lot. I had one of our long-term clients came to us in a level of confidentiality saying, hey, we're thinking about doing this, and we're thinking about partnering with this particular acquirer. What's the deal here? What are we signing up for? What is it actually going to look like on the other end? And so we were able to walk them through, here are the questions you need to ask. Here's what you need to be aware of. The long story short, they seem to be a really good partner in our experience and what we're seeing. So I think you've chosen a good one, but it is going to change your business. It is going to have some impact. And, there were a series of conversations along the way, but it was really about the emotional impact of, hey, we're selling our business here. And are we doing right by our employees? Are we making good choices and selecting a good partner? So it was cool to be able to see it, happen at the legacy level of, this is not a business decision. This is, dozens and dozens of people and their lives are about to be impacted. And we've got a role and a responsibility to serve that well and treat it with honor. So it's awesome that our position in the insurance vertical is well earned and well respected, that we can kind of help in there, which is great.
I love those stories. I think so often in IT, we forget about the actual people behind the business on both sides, on the customer side and the partner side. And I often think about what we do leads back to the betterment of those people ultimately. And it's important that we remember that. So I love that conversation about, one, saving a life, and then two, being able to be realistic about what a company should expect when their employees' lives are going to be upended to a certain extent. And how do we minimize that damage?
So, Katie, I have a bit of a technical success story from a customer perspective. Maybe that's boring because we're in tech shop and whatever. But we kind of had two sides of the technical pieces of the services we offer. One, of course, is what we call managed services. So you pay us monthly dollars. We do your tech stuff, right? We also started doing this thing called technical consulting some years ago. And it was really an opportunity for us to pull me out of the business and see if we could add value in a different way. And so I was kind of on an island, and I had a handful of technical consulting customers. Largely, they were paid projects because they had internal staff, or other MSPs even that were doing what they needed, and they needed some M365 experience. Some of it was literally like, how do I manage my internal IT department, and how can you add some of that? So we had a varying size and scale in the technical consulting clients that we were working with. One of them was a client of about 150 users, an insurance agency in Pennsylvania. I won't say their name, but we were doing helping them with kind of their first steps in from on-prem servers, right, to adopting Microsoft 365. It was like on the brink of an email exchange server migration, right? And so I had been in a technical consulting, project engagement with their staff. At the time, they had 2 staff in their team, and we had been working along. We kind of got the plan together for them, and then up out of nowhere, it kind of went on pause, and we were like, okay, no big deal. We'll come back to this in 6 weeks or whatever. And then before that time horizon had came, we got an email, myself and our founder, Jeff Kite, and it was from the president of the company. And he said, hey, look, our IT director we lost, had to let go. Can you guys onboard us like now as a managed customer? And Jason works with new customers on the way in. And at the time I was dealing with, technical consulting, and we like to plan before we bring customers in, right? So the short version of it is myself and one of our other partners who's not here today, Daniel Gilbert. He is our COO. Me and Daniel onboarded this customer by ourselves, and our onboarding team probably wanted to pull their hair out because I'm sure we didn't check all the right boxes. But we brought the customer in overnight and literally onboarded them. We did a project, moved them to Exchange in the cloud, and then they're a valued customer of ours now, of course. But that was a really cool success story to come in and play rescue, so to speak, and really get to know the agency in a much more intimate way, a lot faster than we anticipated. But we really value that relationship, and we value the opportunity based on the trust or, what the business had confidence that we could help provide. And so they're like 3+ years running now, and it's a great relationship. That's one of many stories that we've had the privilege of helping on the technical front.
I love hearing that story, and congratulations on the success there. Glad to know that they're still a customer. Of course they are, but glad to know that they're still a customer till this day because of everything you went through with them. That's wonderful. I love this conversation, gentlemen. Please tell me, if we want to reach out to Kite Technology Group to learn more, whether we're a prospective client, potentially, whether we're a shop that's looking to come back and say, hey, we're really thinking about switching. What could you do for us differently? Or maybe even if we're an MSP in the industry who really wants to learn more, where can we go?
So email engage, ENGAGE at kitetech, TECH, group.com. We're also on socials, certainly YouTube. We have a lot of great stuff going on there. We do LinkedIn as well. And those are primarily places where we communicate. We also have a phone number, 410-356-3113. And somebody nice will pick up the phone and talk to you there too.
Well, Adam, Jason, thank you both so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure getting to finally speak with you. And thank you so much. I look forward to following your success through the rest of the year.
Yeah, thank you, Katie.
Thanks for having us, Katie.
Thanks so much to Adam and Jason for joining me today. And thank you for watching or listening. You can check out every episode of Channel Insider Partner POV on channelinsider.com or watch us on YouTube at youtube.com/channelinsider_news and trends. You can also listen to us as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to never miss an episode. You can come connect with us on social media with Channel Insider on LinkedIn and X, or with me at Katie Bavoso. Once again, I'm your host, Katie Bavoso, and I'll see you next time.